This one might hurt. Which one is your least favorite?
Dudley Do Right for me. Dudley Do Right.
See, what's funny is I forget what I said on the podcast episode about Dudley Do Right, but I remember liking it more than I expected. Wow, what's the? I don't know what's my least favorite. That's tough.
Didn't you? Was it Looney Tunes? Didn't you like that one? Or you kind of did, but wasn't sure of
my opinion
it?
changes so much sometimes. Where I don't want to say that like, oh, I hate Looney Tunes, because I'm going to say in the podcast that I love it, because even movies that people say are bad, I end up usually liking more than I expected.
Yeah, I think a lot of when I've asked my friends this question, they say Crash, but they only say that because he's not in it as much as was made out to be. Now, I like the movie Crash. Okay, if I was to take him out of it, I still think I would enjoy that movie.
I'll take my answer back and say Crash, because I explicitly had a disdain for this movie when we did the episode. So I'll take my Dudley Do Right back and say Crash, because that whole film is, yeah. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, and I don't have a good answer. I mean, I could easily say it. The Mummy 3 is always going to be one of the most disappointing experiences of my life watching it. I rewatch it now and I can enjoy it a lot more, but the contrast from Mummy Returns to Mummy 3 is so shocking and so disappointing that it could be my least favorite. It just makes me angry because it could have been a great film. It's fine.
There's so much controversy as well about that movie. Well, not controversy, but just a lot of different opinions as to why the film was not the greatest. For me, I think it's because Rachel Weisz wasn't in it. The plot aside, I think if she was in it, I think it would still be redeemable. Just because the chemistry between the two of them it's like lightning has struck. You know, you can't try and recreate that with someone else. And I think Maria Bello did a wonderful job with what she was giving. I think she's a good actress, but she's not Evie for me. She was not Evie for me at all. So I that's just my opinion on that movie.
Yeah, I mean, like she had stepped into some big shoes on that role for sure. But I also think it could have worked better if there wasn't such a big gap between The Mummy Returns and the third movie. Like if it was kind of close together within a few years, and I think it would have worked a lot better. But there's that huge gap in between. So
yeah, and it's, I don't want to say it's, I think I've said it before on the podcast, but it's very easy to come up with a story for a Mummy 3. Like we could here come up with a better story, and it's very simple. If you can't get Rachel, you have to either kill her off or somehow put her off to the side. You need Ardith Bay. 100%. Ardith needs to be in the film. Like that's such an easy thing to fix the film. It's so mind-boggling. If for some reason they felt that Brendan wasn't enough to be the focus of the film, that they had his son, Alex, which he's fine, but he's in it way too much. Like I want to see what Rick's doing in a battle, not what Alex is doing. I don't care. I mean, it's very strange, and to me, it's peak Brendan Fraser, like 2008 to 2010, like Mummy 3, Journey, Extraordinary Measures, Inkheart, like that time period's like one of my favorites in like his filmography. And I think there's such a missed opportunity with the Mummy 3 that I don't know. Unfortunately, like, I don't know if there will probably never be a Mummy 4. I'm still holding out hope, but Mummy 3 kind of killed that, and it shouldn't have, but they were stupid.
Talking about the Mummy 3 and kind of how it was not a favourite among fans, I think it's safe to say without any insult, it just wasn't a favourite among fans. I'm wondering if you guys have thought about what the plot would be had you been in charge of a third Mummy film, or if you have any ideas of what you think a fourth Mummy film could be or should be like.
Oh, it's a tough one.
I mean,
I really would. Go ahead.
I would just say, like, kind of like what I said before. Obviously, no matter what happens, you need Ardith Bay. and that instantly makes it a better film. Like that just solves that problem. So I mean, I don't even know if the story needs to be that great. I mean, like the Mummy 3 story is fine. It's a good adventure. I want, fun action, and it had some of that. So if they were to do it again or make a fourth film, I do think the third one, they didn't need to be retired yet. I mean, they were still pretty young. Like now, if they made one, even now he's only 53. Like Indiana Jones, there's a new Indiana Jones 5 movie coming out. He's 80. Like, I mean, you can still be an adventurer, an explorer. Like you can have fun. So they were retired at like age 40, which is like good for them. But as a viewer, not that it wasn't believable, but they could have still been out there involved with stuff. And I mean, you figure they kind of skipped over. I'm trying to think what year the second film came out. It was like early 30s, right? And that took place in like 1930.
Yeah.
Early 30s, I would say. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. So they kind of skipped over because, I mean, they kind of a little bit skipped over World War II, like some of the main stuff going on, right? Because I don't know what year Mummy 3 took place, but I mean, you got to figure it had to be.
It was like in the 1940s, I believe. Yeah.
Okay,
like,
so maybe World
like
War II going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it would have turned more into an Indiana Jones film, but very simple. I mean, you either go with the same route of having some Jet Li coming back to life, a mummy, they tried and fight it. Very simple. I think their problem is, not having Ardith Bay, Rachel not being there, and not putting enough Brendan Fraser on screen because he's a cool character. Brendan Fraser was at his peak. They just didn't focus on him enough. So it's a pretty easy movie to make. I don't even care what they do, but fight a mummy. Simple.
Yeah.
Do you agree, Karla, or would you have maybe taken it in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. Bring all the original characters. I mean, because they all worked really well together. As far as story, I mean, like, it could be another mummy story. Because, I mean, there was rumors on the fourth one it was going to be, like the Aztecs or Mayans or something like that. Like, I would have been game for that, for sure. Because they were gonna have like Antonio Banderas in it, like
yeah.
He was the Zorro, so why not? That would have been a great story. So yeah, no, like bringing the originals back, a little less Alex for sure in this one. Definitely not retired because they're still young, and Brandon's still kicking ass. That's all we want.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention Jonathan. I love Jonathan. He was one of the highlights of the third film. And I feel like I kind of forget about him a little bit, but Jonathan and John Hannah, like, perfect. I want more of him. He's great. Underappreciated, just a very talented actor. So, and talking about this makes me, like, interested in, it'd be great to talk to someone that was working for Universal at the time. How far do they get to working on a Mummy 4? Like, was there a full script? How seriously was it considered? Because that'd be a great conversation to learn, what could have been about a fourth Mummy.
But yeah, I just couldn't believe that they would have Rick and Evie retired by 40. To me, that doesn't make sense because they enjoy adventure so much, and she has such a curious nature. So the fact that they were both just sitting, drinking tea and having fish, I was like, no, it's no sense. And Alex isn't the reason we watched a Mummy movie. He was a nice little element to it, but he shouldn't have been the driving force for the third movie for me. He was not, he didn't have enough backstory and certainly enough connection with an audience, I think, to have him be the driving force of a story. So, sorry, Alex.
Very strange decisions they made with the third film because it's so obvious to a fan why we like the Mummy 1 and 2. And to have Rick, first be on screen, shooting fish. I don't know. It was tough to watch.
It had some questionable scenes.
A few.
Yeah, quite a few. The what were the Yetis or like Bigfoots or something? I was just like, what?
Yeti. That is so tough to watch.
Yeah.
I don't know how that was allowed. Like nobody stopped that.
I don't know. I try and block it out, to be honest with you guys. I try and just block out the third one as much as if it's on, I will watch it because Brendan's in it, but other than that, it's not something I would like reach off the shelf to sit down and enjoy for like family movie night or anything like that.
Yeah, and I talk about this in the podcast, I think. Watching the film for the first time, the scene right before Jet Li comes to life and the O'Connells are like, they transfer that, whatever piece that was, to the Colonel guy. And the Colonel's like, I'm a bad guy now, and there's a shootout. Brendan Fraser jumps to the ground, grabs a gun, and points like this.
Mm-hmm.
He is on the ground for a good 20 seconds, still like this. Like, the editors, I swear, forgot about Rick O'Connell. Like, in the middle of an action scene, like, he just disappears for about 20 seconds, like, doesn't do anything. He stays on the ground with his gun pointed. It's very strange. It's tough to watch.
Yeah, very tough to watch. But I'm glad you guys talked about that on the last podcast. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you guys could be friends with one of his characters from any of his movies, which one would it be and why?
Oh, that's tough.
I'm sorry, my show I ask tough questions. But I like people to think about what they're answering.
No, they're really good questions.
Oh, thank God! I was like, they're gonna hate these questions so much. They're gonna be like, we're not going on this show ever again.
I would say Blast from the Past would be the most fun.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, I mean, he was stuck in like a bomb shelter for many years. I mean, that's to be with someone's like experiencing maybe a new movie or new amusement park or just anything new. Like, that's fun.
What is it?
The sky!
I see it, Mommy.
I have never in my life seen anything like it before! Or like you!
It seems like I could spend a day with that guy, get some tea, talk, go on some adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's super, super sweet in that movie, and I think that he's definitely a character that in real life I think would be like a really fun person to be friends with. And hey, he loves to dance, you know, he could probably take you to all the good clubs in town and, you know, just show you a good time and stuff. I think his character reminded me a lot of Elliot Richards from Bedazzled. They had similar elements in terms of how innocent they were and how kind of awkward they could be sometimes. So I think Elliot was probably the most kind of, you could be friends with him and not have it be weird in terms of like, if you're friends with Rick in that capacity, then that means you're part of that world that's like, oh my God, there's like dead people that can come back to life and like armies that can come out of the sand and stuff, you know?
Right. That's true.
Have you thought of one, Karla?
I would say, I mean, like, I guess you can say, take Adam, Elliot, and George of the Jungle. They're pretty much kind of a similar character. So those three combined, I would be friends with.
That would be the funnest friend ever. But you'd probably be knackered spending all day with them, because every day they'd be like, I want to go see this and I've never been here before and let's go do something different, and you're like, I've done this like 20 times.
True, but I feel like it would also take you out of your comfort zone too. Like, if you haven't experienced a certain thing and then they want to do it and you're like, all right, let's do it then. And so I feel like it would be a good little learning experience as well.
Those are great answers. Okay, this is kind of similar, but it's immersive. So I've tried to be really immersive with this question. So if you could be in one of his movies as a character, which movie would you be? And would you be a character that's already in the film, or would you like to be like a sidekick or like someone new?
I would be definitely in a character in Blast from the Past. I don't know if I would be like a secondary character, or I'd want to be Alicia Silverstone. I don't know. Maybe both.
Yeah, that's good. And for me, it's the obvious Rick O'Connell. Who wouldn't want to be Rick, at least in the first movie or the third movie, and they could prevent some things from happening. You know, can not go fishing with a gun or, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, but Rick O'Connell, he's one of the coolest characters ever.
You could just be their friend from the States that constantly yells at them for retiring. You could be like, what are you doing? Why are you retiring? There's so many things out there that are still to be explored. Get off your like plush cushions and get back out there and use your home as a vacation home to take a break from going in adventures. I think I could see you as one of those kind of characters, just because you're genuinely just like, they wouldn't be retired, you know.
Yeah, they were way too young to be retired. Come on, I would be pestering them daily.
So, just kind of going back to talking about Brendan in general, aside from his movies and everything like that, what is it about him, do you think, that makes people love him so much? What is it about him that you think gravitates people towards him as a human being?
He's very charismatic. Like, even as a character, or even outside in, like, you know, if you watch his interviews or anything like that, just his interaction with people, he's just very charismatic. He's a Hollywood sweetheart for sure, and I think that's what gravitates them to him. But also at the fact that there's like that history that a lot of us grew up watching his films, so I think there's like that nostalgia about it as well.
Charismatic, almost relatable. I just think that he's able to do so many different roles so well. And you have like, you know, my parents, their age group would be like respecting Brendan for, you know, With Honors or something like that, or Gods and Monsters, The Quiet American. But then the younger generation who grew up with like George the Jungle or Encino Man. So it's like just so appealing and believable. And he's perfected that innocent character, but he's also like done so well in dramas, and then he's like the example of what an action star should be with The Mummy. Yeah, just very appealing somehow. I don't know, relatable at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's really sweet as well. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago when it was his birthday, that I don't think that the recent Renaissance has gotten to his head at all. I don't think he's coming across as arrogant or entitled, or I should be getting all this adoration and love, and it's going to my head and I'm just going to be a complete snob about it now. I've not heard anything like that about him in the recent few years, that he has let that kind of get to his head. And I think that's another reason why people are, you know, hashtag Renaissance, hashtag protect Brendan Fraser. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why people just gravitate to him so much as a person and as an actor.
And I think at the same time, him not really having a presence on social media himself is kind of refreshing. And I think I would say, to get an idea of who he is, go to his website, you know, brendanfraser.com, and it's not been updated in like 15 years. Like, to me, that's amazing. I mean, at this point, I used to hope that he would like let me redo it and handle it, but now it's like, it's a time capsule. Like, that's kind of who he is, and like, you don't want him to change, because I don't know, it's just a rare celebrity in 2021.
There's like an air of mystery about him as well. I think that's another reason why people are so drawn to him, because he doesn't take photos of his food and Instagrams them, and he doesn't tweet if a football team's won or lost, and he doesn't, you know, express his political views or anything like that. I think that I think he's really smart in the sense that he knows, I'm an actor, I'll do a few interviews, and that's it. That's all you're going to see. And I think that he's very protective of his personal life as well. And I think he's very protective of his family, and just trying to make sure that all of that's kept kind of, you know, locked tight for him as well.
Yeah, he seems like a very real person. Like, he could be like your neighbor down the street that just happens to be a famous actor.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps that mystery still going, and plus it's like he doesn't, you know, announces every little detail in his life like how some celebrities do now. There's a bit of nuance still left there.
Is there one of his films that is lesser known that you would recommend anybody to watch or see?
For a romance film, like, yeah, like Brandon is kind of known for that, but Still Breathing is a really good one. in my opinion. Like, I've watched it a couple of times, and it's like, it's really pretty. He's really pretty in it. Another one that's like a little crazy, but I think people would like dig it depending on like if they watch these type of genres. The Passion of Darkly Noon. That's another film that I would suggest.
Would this be any of his film that I would suggest to anybody, or one that's like not as well known?
One that's like lesser known, but if you want to throw in, you know, that answer as well, to like, say you met somebody who was like, I don't know who that is, I've never seen any of his films, like, what would be the film that you say, right, start with this and then like work your way back? But also my original question of what's one of his films that's lesser known that you would say, oh, everybody should watch this, it's a great movie?
Yeah, okay, well, I mean, I hate to keep bringing up The Mummy, but The Mummy 1 is...
You don't have to apologize for bringing it up, by the way. This is a safe space, Daniel. This is you're all allowed here.
Expected, but The Mummy 1 is such a great movie. Like, I can't imagine anybody watching it and not enjoying it. And I think what's great is like, it stars Brendan Fraser, but he's so different as Rick O'Connell to like his other characters. But I mean, it's just an easy recommendation. One that's like not. He has quite a few that, it's funny because like they're well-known movies. Like, everyone knows maybe like a Mrs. Winterbourne, but at the box office made like nothing. You know what I mean? Like, but somehow people just know his films. Maybe they don't go at the theater, but it's just always on. You know it. One of my favorites that didn't make a lot of money is Extraordinary Measures with Harrison Ford. It's like a very, very simple drama movie. Like, it's just, I think his acting in it is so great. I think the story is so emotional. Him trying to like save his daughter. I don't know. I would say Extraordinary Measures with Harrison Ford, because it's a great duo. It's not some action like you'd expect when you see Harrison Ford and Brendan Fraser in 2010, but it's just a very emotional story. And that's one I'm so confused more people didn't see it or don't know it. And we haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, so I'm looking forward to that. Even Harrison Ford, like his arc, his story, you know, going from that grumpy, not interested in helping to like where he ends up, like caring about the family. I mean, that's like a real movie with heart. Very well done.
Which one of his films do you think has the best score or soundtrack?
Okay, so score-wise, definitely the first Mummy, and I enjoy the Inkheart score as well. Those two. As far as soundtrack, I would probably say, I think Airhead was it had like a bunch of like 90s music in it, so I would say that. I mean, completely two different things, but yeah.
Yeah, the Mummy, the trilogy, like all three of them have a like pretty good score. I think The Mummy Returns I'll use a lot in the podcast. So I think The Mummy Returns is like the most recognizable to me. I think there's a few different moments in the film. The one like the montage where they're traveling, the breadcrumbs, like place to place. I think early on the shots when they first show the O'Connell's home in London, which is like this very like epic score behind it. But also I'll use a lot in the podcast in the beginning, Gods and Monsters, the soundtrack, the score of that. I forget which song I use, but Carter Burwell. I don't know, it's just very, it stands out. It's beautiful.
I love that you guys have a little bit of music at the start and at the end of your podcast. It's just a nice little segue in and out into episodes. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy it.
Okay, so my last question is, if Brendan was ever to see this video, which is highly unlikely, but let's just put it out there that maybe he wanted to just sit and watch the complete strangers talk about this, is there a message that you would like to leave for him, or anything you'd like to say for Brendan?
Come on our podcast.
Yeah, that'd be the main thing. Like, please be a guest.
Yeah. Please be a guest on our podcast. That would mean a lot to us and a lot to many, many people. And it would be really cool because we have like so many questions, and like, or even him and like some maybe other cast member from a different film, both of them together, kind of like chat about their movie experience and all that. But no, I mean, definitely needs to know that he's definitely adored by like everybody. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what else other than, hey, come join us one day. Why not?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just please be on the podcast, and we'd love to talk to him, and just make sure he knows he has many fans out there that want to hear more from him. Because he'll do, occasional interviews, but people want more. If he's ever available for an interview, whether it's 5 minutes or he wants to talk for 2 hours, like, he's open invitation.
Very much.
Anytime, day or night, Brendan, if you want to go on the Brendan Fraser podcast, you don't even need to ask. You just need to let them know you're coming. They will accommodate you. I know I'm not asking you guys, but I'm guessing that's what you guys would say anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it was 3 in the morning, that's fine. I mean, also, too, like, it's called the Brendan Fraser podcast. Like, if he says, hey, you know what? I want to take this over and host my own podcast, just me talking. Like, how could I say no? That'd be like, take it. Like, it's yours.
I genuinely think anything's possible. He has so many projects coming out, so many opportunities. So I don't see why he wouldn't, because you guys are super lovely as well, very interested in his work, just like really nice people. And I think that that's what I love about Brendan Fraser fans as well, is that every single person that I've met has been like super nice and really friendly, and I think that he has the best fan base in the world because we're all just really speaking, try not to sound big-headed, I think I'm a nice person. You guys are great people.
Thank you.
Oh, well, you guys, that was so much fun. Daniel and Karla, thank you so much for giving up your time to be here on this show today. I really appreciate it, and I would have waited forever for you guys to come on the show. I'm definitely going to go and binge listen again to your podcast, and it'll be different this time because I've spoke to you guys and it's nice, and it's like I've interacted with them, and it's just going to hit differently. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I truly do appreciate giving up your time to be here.
Thank you for having us. We had fun. Thank you for all the tough questions too.
That's no problem. You guys are welcome back anytime. If there's any updates or anything like that, or if you get Brendan on the show, just expect an invitation from me to come on my show and talk about that experience as well.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
So if you guys want to find Karla and Daniel on the Brendan Fraser podcast, I will leave a link to that in the description bar, but the name is in the title. You can find them on Twitter and Instagram and Spotify, or anywhere you guys get your podcasts. As always, thank you so much for supporting this channel and for being here, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, and bye Karla and Daniel.
Bye.
Bye.